Project Random is an Attribic initiative. It is supported by Law Union and Rock Insurance PLC. Music was created by Christopher Ogwehi and recorded at the Attribic Studio, Lagos, Nigeria.
These stories told from the books of history with mystery buried in scrolls. The toll of death is counted in heads as men throw spears that pierces the soul. So the sounds of doom is brought to the threshold of time as the sun inclines to noon. Socrates is brought out of the womb, playing terrestrial tunes, evoking great films from the tomb of Nostradamus, back to the time of Shango, who commits spiritual arson, trying to discover the garden of Eden, home of the roots who gave birth to the brethren, Cain and Abel. Homicide before the eyes of the guardian angel.
Oh, wow, Rez. Wow. Okay, just in case you don't know who that is, that was Rez the poet.
Yeah.
Thank you for that performance. I really appreciate it. This is from the awesome Rez the poet. He is a poet, spoken word kingpin, and he's here to discuss our topic today. The piece you just heard is called Lofa by Rez the poet. It talks about man killing man for different reasons: jealousy, envy, money, the great reasons that people create to cause another human being to suffer. And sometimes it's just for hunger. Stories of man eating man or human flesh dates back to since the beginning of times, before the Bible, and is based on quite a number of cultural beliefs and tribal norms. Cannibalism, you see, was believed to endow the cannibal with some characteristics of the deceased. I am Meena, and this is Project Random. Today, we have two very similar stories but very different. One story is very detailed and the other has a whole lot of holes in it. I'm going to tell you the two of them and we are going to trash it out as I normally do on Project Random. Hamilton Howard Fish was also known as Halbert Fish. He was an American serial killer and also known as the Boogeyman. He lived from 1870 to 1936. He was a child rapist and a cannibal. He actually confessed to 3 murders to the police, and the police were only able to trace him to one other homicide. He was on trial for the murder of Grace Budd. He had a family history of mental illness. This was documented and traced through his family line. His brother had a mental illness, his uncle had a mental illness, his sister was put in a mental institution. His mom also suffered hallucinations, and he at some point had hallucinations or displayed some signs of hallucinations. His father died of a heart attack. His mother moved him to an orphanage where he was sadistically treated, beating at will, and everything that happened to him in the orphanage was documented. Well, not documented, but at least there was proof that children were maltreated, especially him as well. And this is where he says that his story started to turn, that this is where he started to become this bad person. He started to enjoy the physical pain, and even when he was taken out by his mom 3 years after, by then he was 12, he had a relationship with a telegraph boy who also introduced him to drinking urine and eating feces. Yeah, ew. Very disgusting. At 20, he became a male prostitute and started raping young boys. His mother arranged a marriage for him, and 8 years later, in 1898, throughout that year, he continued molesting children, mostly boys younger than 6. This was the point where he got very interested in sexual mutilation. He met a young man of 19 named Thomas Kedding. Thomas Kedding was alleged to be intellectually disabled. I don't know what that means. Maybe they meant he was autistic or had some kind of learning disability. He obviously was not quite there. Albert Fish had him for 2 weeks in his apartment where he sodomized him and had all kinds of weird, kinky stuff with him. And 2 weeks after, took him to an old abandoned farmhouse, tortured him for another 2 weeks, and then he tied him up and cut off a part of his genitals. I don't want to say the other word because, well, I don't know, kids might be listening. So, cut half of his thing, and he actually intended to kill Kedding, but he was trying to kill Kedding, take his body away with him, probably to eat. This was the point where maybe he was starting to take an interest in cannibalism, but he was very scared of being caught and the smell, so he just cut off a part of his genitals and put a $10 bill right beside him, kissed his cheek, and said goodbye. He didn't look back. He didn't check to see what would happen to him, if he lived or he died. In probably what would be remorse, he poured peroxide on the wound and put a Vaseline-covered handkerchief on the stub, and that was it. After his wife left him, he started to raise his 6 children by himself. By this time, he was starting to express interest in self-harm. He embedded needles in his genitals, oh my god, in his groin and abdomen, and when he was arrested, an x-ray was taken of him, and in that x-ray, they found 29 needles embedded in his pelvic region. And there are no reports of him molesting his own children, but he did have his children bring over their friends to beat him with nail-studded paddles on his bum. He would soak a cotton ball in fuel and put it up his butt and light it. This was the point where he started having a growing obsession with cannibalism. He actually used to feed his kids raw meats, and he used to obviously eat that in front of his kids. In 1919, he stabbed an intellectually disabled boy in Georgetown, Washington. Fish normally chose people who were handicapped or really, really young, or African Americans. He always assumed that these people will not be missed when they are killed. Fish tortured, mutilated, and murdered young children with his implements of hell: a meat cleaver, a butcher knife, and a small handsaw. On July 11th, 1924, Fish found 8-year-old Beatrice Keel playing alone on her parents' Staten Island farm. He offered her money to come help him look for a rhubarb. She was about to leave the farm when her mom chased Fish away. Fish left but returned later to Keel's barn, where he tried to sleep but was discovered by Hans Keel and forced to leave. During 1924, 54-year-old Fish, suffering from psychosis, felt that God was commanding him to torture and sexually mutilate children. On May 25th, 1928, Fish saw a classified advertisement on the Sunday edition of the New York World that read, "Young man 18 wishes position in country, Edward Budd, address." And on May 28, 1928, Fish visited the Budd family under the pretense of hiring Edward. He later confessed that he planned to tie Edward up, mutilate him, and leave him to bleed to death. He introduced himself as Frank Howard, a farmer from Farmingdale, New York. Fish promised to hire Budd and his friend Willie and said he would send for them in a few days. He failed to show up but sent a telegraph to the Budd family apologizing and set a later date. When Fish returned, he met Grace Budd. He apparently changed his intended victim from Edward Budd to Grace Budd quickly and made up a story about having to attend his niece's birthday party. He convinced the parents, Delilah Flanagan and Albert Budd, to let Grace accompany him to the party that evening. Now, that's just very stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, I don't understand. Anyways, Grace left with Fish that day but never returned. In November 1934, an anonymous letter was sent to the girl's parents, which ultimately led the police to Fish. Mrs. Budd was illiterate and could not read the letter herself, so she had her son read it to her. Okay, so I'm going to read the unadulterated letter with all the grammatical mistakes and everything. Dear Mrs. Budd, in 1894, a friend of mine shipped as a deckhand on steamer Tacoma Captain John Davis. They sailed from San Francisco to Hong Kong, China. On arriving there, he and 2 others went ashore and got drunk. And when they returned, the boat was gone. At the time, there was a famine in China. Meat of every kind was from $1 to $3 a pound. So great was the suffering among the very poor that all children under 12 were sold to butchers to be cut up and sold for food in order to keep others from starving. A boy or a girl under 14 was not safe in the streets. You could go to any shop and ask for steak, chops, or stew meat. Part of the naked body of a boy or a girl would be brought out and just what you wanted cut out of it. A boy or a girl's behind, which was the sweetest part of the body, was sold as veal cutlet, brought the highest price. John stayed there so long he acquired a taste for human flesh. On his return to NY, he stole 2 boys, 7 and 11, took them home, stripped them naked, tied them to a closet, and burned everything they had on. Several times every day and night, he spanked them, tortured them to make their meat good and tender. First, he killed the 11-year-old boy because he had the fattest ass, and of course, the most meat on it. Every part of his body was cooked and eaten except the head, bones and guts. He was roasted in the oven, all of his ass boiled, fried and stewed. The little boy was next, went the same way. At the same time, I was living at the rear side of the building. He told me all so often how good human flesh was. I made up my mind to taste it. On Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called you at your address, brought you pork cheese, strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. I made up my mind to eat her on the pretense of taking her to a party. You said yes, she could go. I took her to an empty house in Westchester I had already picked out. When I got there, I told her to remain outside. She picked wildflowers. I went upstairs, stripped off all my clothes. I knew if I did not, I would get her blood on them. When I was ready, I went to the window, called her, and hid in a closet until she was in the room. When she saw me all naked, she began to cry and tried to run downstairs. I grabbed her, and she said she would tell her mama. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death. Then I cut her in small pieces so I'll take my meat to my rooms, cook and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was, roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat her entire body. I did not fuck her though. I could have if I wished. She died a virgin. Like that was any good. The police investigated the letter, and the story about the famine could not be verified. And this letter obviously led to Fish being arrested because of the envelope that it was sent in. All these things show the Albert Fish story is very, very, very detailed. If you Google it, you would see a whole lot of facts that I missed out because I don't have the time to say the whole story. Now I'm going to go to the next story. Next story is our very own Clifford Orgy. Okay, it's not funny. It's not funny, but I'm just saying, you see how detailed Albert Fish was? Now listen to Clifford Orgy. You see, Clifford Orgy's story is very astounding. He was arrested under a bridge at Oshodi-Apapa Expressway, and when he was caught with human parts, a phone, and a check of 88,000 naira. When this whole story burst, police was trying to decide whether he was actually a cannibal, like eating the body of people, kidnapping them, killing them, and eating the bodies, or he was killing these people with the intention of reselling these parts to other people who probably were cannibals as well, because I don't know what you're going to do with a human body aside from rituals. And if you are doing rituals, oh my god, there's so many holes in this story. Clifford Orgy, even after he was arrested, was never actually tried. He appeared in court once. After that, he stayed in jail for 13 years where he died. He was determined to be insane. The psychiatric homes could not handle his insanity. They couldn't even decide exactly what was wrong with him. They didn't have the facilities to take care of him. After taking him back to jail, he died in a state of insanity, and till today nobody knows what actually happened to him. Now I have 3 questions, or 4, or maybe more questions about this particular case. First things first, why didn't the police investigate that check? I mean, every check has numbers and names. Every check, and bank details. They have bank details, they have have everything. Why didn't they check out? I mean, somebody must have written this check. How did they decide that this person was called Clifford Orji? Was it a name that was made up? Okay, that's my second question. Was this name made up? Is his name actually Clifford Orji? Or was this somebody else's name that he just adopted? Was that the name on the check? How did they decide that this person was named Clifford Orji? Did he have an identity card of any kind? Who was he calling via this phone? There must have been dialed code lists. There must have been received code lists. Why didn't they check through all those lists to find out who had called him? Who had he received calls from? Why didn't they investigate all these people? Who grew up with this man? Who are his family members? Why aren't there details of his family members? Where did he come from? Where did he reside before under the bridge? Who exactly was Clifford Orji? Who were his victims? Were any DNA tests conducted on his victims? Was anybody notified as to the death of their loved ones concerning this person? Can a person actually be tried without identifying a victim, even though there's a body involved? Now we're going to discuss the two cases, Rez. So we're going to talk about everything, and you're now going to analyze the two cases and understand why I had to say both and why one was so detailed and the other one was just like,
Isn't it very straightforward? It's symptomaniac of the society that we live in. We don't even document our own history. We don't document things that happen on a daily basis, landmark events in our society so well.
Thank God for Twitter.
Yeah, we don't do that so well. I think even at that, with the kind of noise that came with the old Clifford Orji story, the media noise and everything that surrounded it, it's enough room. And I tell you, we've seen situations where Nigerian media actually investigated situations, but as you can tell, there was politics involved in the Clifford Orji, which again is part of what is wrong with the system. Where, like you said, there's a name on the check, someone issued that check, there's a signature on the check, there's a bank, there's a cell phone.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a call history.
Yes.
And even if it was wiped out, you snatch that cell phone, you've got a SIM number, it's got a serial number.
There was a company that issued that SIM, right?
Exactly.
They have.
Then you can go and investigate all of that. From a crime perspective, that's actually the
That's
beginning.
basic. That's
and
even basic.
How do you establish his mental stability? So even in the media, it was stated that nobody is 100% certain that he's mentally unstable. It seemed like he was acting the script, trying to act like someone who is mad and all that.
My own question now is, are they even sure that this person is dead, or that Clifford Orji is the Clifford Orji that isn't? Do you understand? Are you sure it's not just a random mad person that they took and put in the pit?
If he's got a check, I would imagine the check was issued in his name.
Yes, the check was issued in his name.
And he needs an identity to cash that check.
Yes.
So maybe identity was verified.
No, you're not understanding the question, right? What I'm saying is, so they arrested somebody that claimed to be Clifford Orji. The minute he appeared in court, after that appearing in court, he didn't appear again.
Yeah.
How are you sure that they took him back to the prison?
I hear you.
Do you understand? How are you sure that they took him back to the prison? Are you sure that along the way, they didn't drop him off somewhere, pick up a random mad person and take him back to say, that's Clifford Orji? Do you get?
So,
I mean, there's no real picture of... All pictures I can find of him are blurred.
Okay, I didn't try to find pictures.
I tried to find pictures of him.
I don't want to see him in my dreams. So I don't want to see what it looks like.
This is a safe zone. Nothing's gonna happen to you.
Okay, but let's look at it. And thanks to you, it was really, I think it's a nice idea to set the context of the conversation with our poetry. It's about the necessary evils that can come for different reasons. So you looked at Albert Fish's story, and then we're comparing against Clifford Orji. And at the end of the day, there's an established history around Albert Fish, the motive behind the crimes, and
the crime is detailed.
At the end of the day, a case of mental instability was concluded on, and it's ended and it's documented, and we can learn from. But from Clifford Orji, we can't say for certain he's mad.
Yes,
we can't say for certain
he was actually.
It does look like it because it was narrated that he's got fresh bones.
But the thing is,
women underwear.
Is he sure? Are they even sure that he was a cannibal? Did they test the digestive system? Just watching CSI alone is going to teach you how to. If I was going to go about an investigation like that, these are the things. You want to test if somebody is a cannibal, you test his stomach contents and find out. Okay, this person is a cannibal. That means still have
Human protein.
Exactly. An excess of human protein in his digestive system or tract if he ate it within the last 24 hours. So where did they have that decision that this guy was a cannibal? Did they actually catch him munching on a bone? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, how did they know he was cannibal? He could have been anything. It could have been just being somebody that was kidnapping people and using the parts for something else.
Okay, so Clifford Orji case was on for 13 years before they eventually come to say now he's dead.
He died in 2012.
Yeah, and between that period and up until, and I say last week now as a matter of fact, but to just say up until recent time, there in the news every day you've got stories of a pastor, an alpha that was found with a skull or human part. And so I'm tempted to want to think it's more ritualistic than cannibalistic. Now, that is not to say that cannibalism doesn't exist.
Because
from medieval times up until more recent times, and when I say more recent time, I mean last 200 years, where we can actually see history well documented about. So for every Albert Fish you've got a Jeffrey Dahmer, for example. You've got there's a guy, I'm trying to remember the name now, Robert Maudsley, that was British. His story is almost like that of Albert Fish. Right.
I'm going to do a story on that guy some other time. Yeah, I don't think I have the time.
His story is almost like that of Albert Fish. He was a 12th child, neglected, abused as well, claimed to have been raped, and his parents couldn't take care of him. Social services took over. He lived in our equivalent of motherless home. Whatever. He was
an orphanage.
Orphanage. He was mentally screwed up. What I just want to bring out of his story is eventually, he killed someone and he was supposed to be in prison. And in prison, he started hunting the inmates down as well.
Are you kidding? He fear.
He will lure them into his cell.
He fear.
And when they all realized that this guy
is killer, he's a hunter.
Killer, everybody started, even the bad guys.
Are you kidding? Okay. Respect.
And on a certain afternoon, he killed 2 people.
Are you kidding?
So he killed an inmate, then walked out, and everybody just stayed in their cell, locked themselves in.
They locked themselves.
And he went for
the guard.
A warden.
Are you kidding?
He killed the guy and ate his brains.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
Wow.
And this is I don't remember clearly, between 1958 and 1968.
Are you kidding?
Ish. So it's very recent, right? If we look at the history of man on earth and all.
Yeah.
And so I believe the topic for today is cannibalism. The closest we can come to that topic is Clifford Orji.
Yeah, here in Nigeria.
So we are saying we can't really verify if that was a case of cannibalism
or something else entirely.
Or just a ritual killer. And if we're speaking of cannibalism, so how do we say, are we saying that it doesn't really exist in our society and what we've got are more ritual killers? Or we are saying because we haven't documented these things very well,
so
it does exist? Or are these just legends or myths, But from where I stand, what my contribution would be is taking an African look. I read the book years back. I remember the talk about, from what I've read, for most times when you've got the cannibalistic people, there is the mental side.
Yeah.
And the way it's documented in history is there's some sort of demonic possession that is believed to be behind these people. It's really deep though.
Yeah, it is.
And it's borderline between vampirism and cannibalism, where you want to suck blood and you have to eat flesh, or you have to eat flesh, you suck the blood, and because I don't see how you want to eat the flesh.
At least people like to eat it cooked. Albert Fish was cooking them.
That sounds about cooking human beings.
Was cooking human beings. Wow.
Okay, so in New Guinea, there is this people, I don't remember exactly, but they will lie down the field and lure their victims. And those, from what I read, they seem to eat people a bit more raw. And there is a tribe called the Four. I don't know the pronunciation. Is it Four or the Foray? Or Foray. These guys, the way, and this is Africa now, in West Africa, New Guinea. they actually, it's part of their own grieving ritual.
So they eat
in
their
every
dead?
family. Yes. So
if the person has cancer,
actually,
they will have cancer.
I wouldn't say it. They cannibalize their dead, believing that
is it all the parts?
There are
or just
attributes.
Parts of the body?
I can't say for certain.
Wow.
There are attributes of the person. Let's say the person is very intelligent, or the woman is Kim Kardashian.
So they eat their bum bum.
Eat their bum bum. People would want different parts. People would want different parts of that person.
So wait.
So it's part of the grieving that, okay.
I want to understand this thing that you just said just now. So that's the question. So somebody dies.
Yeah.
The person looks like Kim Kardashian and has the brain of Einstein.
Yeah.
I don't know if such a person exists.
Yeah.
Or just say.
Probably does.
Okay, it probably does.
In Africa.
Yeah. Kim Kardashian and, has the brain of Einstein. So somebody's going to be like, I call brain. And I say, I call ass. Is that what's going to happen?
I thought this was supposed to be sad. We're cracking jokes out of this.
I say, I call boobs. I'm like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Is that what the person going to do?
And I would imagine these are adults, so if the adults to have the mind and heart to do that, you possibly over 21 years.
Yeah, you have to be.
You've stopped growing.
Yeah. So how do you want to assimilate this ass or the brain? That's just amazing.
That is confirmed.
It's amazing.
That is confirmed. It's confirmed.
Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing what human beings do to each other.
Caribbean islands, zeros as well. Some documented Solomon Islands that exist. Fiji. The other documented history of that I know and growing up, not that anything I had to read, was in Congo, in Liberia during wars.
Yeah.
There's famine and people are hungry, then they start cannibalizing each other. Or there's also, I don't remember when exactly, but a plane crash. And I think a movie was made based on this, where they are in the middle of nowhere, they are hungry, and then they start cannibalizing the dead, the people that didn't make it alive of that plane crash, and they cannibalize just to survive and eat fellow human beings.
There's actually sorry, let me just pitch in. There's actually a documented story of, I don't know the name because I didn't think we're going to go there.
Yeah.
But now we're going there. So there's a documented story. You can obviously do your research. That is why Google is there. Anyways. There's a documented history of a sailor that got lost during one of the expeditions. It's probably an American or a British ship. They're trying to avoid the tribes because they thought that they were cannibals. That was the myth that was going around then, that they were all cannibals. So they were avoiding them and they went into the sea and they had no idea where they were going. And slowly and surely, they ran out of food. And ran out of food, they started eating each other. So the thing that they were running away from is what they became. And in the end, they all obviously died.
Wow.
Yeah, so because obviously there's no food. When the last person exists now?
He starts eating himself.
So that's a basic need that I feel like under any circumstances I can say, okay, fine, understand. Do you get like, okay, you were so hungry, about to die, and you saw a dead person, you're like, okay, yes, I gotta kill, I have to cook this person.
So
although cooking it it's deep. It's very deep. I want to caramelize this meat.
Can you please stop it? Don't even take my mind there.
Okay, so I'm going to stop talking about food now.
But what I can say to come back to the premise of this discussion is, I do think that cannibalism does exist.
Of course it does.
Maybe in our society, and I do believe it still exists up until today, even in Nigeria.
Definitely.
We probably have more situation of rituals. And if you watch Nollywood and if you're a bit into the culture part of things, for example, the Yoruba culture, and this thing is not just Yoruba, it's across all cultures. But I am Yoruba, so I know more about my culture. I can say that even those rituals are entrenched or in cannibalism, because they take those parts and they make what they may of it, and more than half of the time someone has to eat it. Someone has to, they probably put some things together and they say blah, 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 you have to eat it, because it's all about essence and for whatever they are looking for and all, which fits into that foray people's. For example, you want to become a rich man, you say kill a baby and I don't know, and you make money charm out of it, and you
want to translate that for non-Yoruba people.
That thing is I don't know. I don't know how I want to put that in English. But literally to take away one's intelligence, like the kind of jazz that these bomo and kidnappers would use, and then they touch the person and the mind is gone. It's like someone that has been hypnotized, and it basically is to like nullify the next person's intelligence, and they become I think I find the word, they become very suggestive, which means you say things directly to their subconscious mind, to their conscious mind, and then you
they're
can
able to use that,
and you can control them, and for whatever, and from there you can say, lie down, this is the knife, show me your neck. The person is just following, and that's in the realm of jazz, really. I believe at the end of the day, with that we know, even with our political leaders, the kind of powers that they seek and everything, we have unrecorded issues or situations of cannibalism, even if we claim it's ritualism, if there's any word like that, if it's just rituals. At the end of the day, like I said, what are they doing with those human parts?
True.
Most often than not, they consume it.
They're consuming it
for whatever reason. They want to take the destiny of whatever, blah, 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 and whatnot. We've seen situations where students who are carrying Aristo, their breast is gone, they find the corpse, and sometimes it even bothers, maybe if in Nigeria so we come back to the systemic failure where we started from, comparing Albert Fish to Clifford Orji, where there's good investigation. You also see that it can be linked to necrophilia.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I think to wrap it all up, there's something called Jeoba.
Aha! We have gotten there.
What does that mean? So Oba Konti Waja, a new king is one king has just died. There's a demise of a king, and a new king is coming. I read recently in the papers, I don't know where exactly, about the story of one king in Southwest, maybe Ogun or Oshun, who was there were two. One was a deacon, but for you to become a king, you have to do some of those rituals. Which means you probably, maybe they don't tell you, or maybe they did. You have to eat the oba, the heart, or the liver, or some parts of the king before you. You are a deacon, right, in church. But I don't see how you will become a king and you won't do all of that. And now, at the point of death, the guy has planned. Now, the Muslim guy, there are two that I read. The Muslim guy had planned with his youngest wife, who is also maybe an alpha or Nasfat, and is a king. But you do the rituals when you get there. When you get on the throne, you tell them to go and be doing it on your behalf. You're not going to the shrine. You think it's just a one-time thing. And then when the guy died, what happened? It came for the body. The younger wife tried to abscond with it. Yes, I think it was post-independence Nigeria in the 1950s or 60s. This Muslim guy that I'm talking about, I'm trying to remember. But at the end of the day, for a whole week, they were haunting the family.
Did they kill anyone?
No, they didn't have to. But they eventually found, and I learned it was the younger wife, and they were just trying to make sure they bury the king quickly, and so that he can avoid all of those things. And what happened? They found him. They severed. Read that they severed the head of the king and took the vital parts of the body. And what are they going to do with it? It's for the next king.
Yeah.
And what would the next king do? Omaje Oba now. That's one way. But when we hear cannibalism, we think someone is live and the other person is just killing and eating. It doesn't always happen like that. As far as you're eating the same species.
Yeah, as long as it's cannibalism.
It's cannibalism. The point essentially is it's still prevalent in our society today in ways that we don't see it as such, because we only think of a lunatic, a mentally unstable person on the rampage who is killing people and eating people. No, the everyday people, the power-seeking people, the politicians, in the traditional institution as well, these are things that people don't come outside to say this. So, and then you talk about different festivals within the cultures. They say there's curfew, women should not move around, people get missing every day on social media. Yeah. Some of them are found, some of them are not found. Lots
of people are getting missing, and there's no.
So we can't separate the rituals from cannibalism in our modern society. Yeah. And the difference, which is where we started from, that sounded like myth and legends, which has always been in our society, because we have a system that does not investigate crime. How can people disappear? No, the police
just keeps quiet.
And the single one that was really, which is the Clifford Orji, they still bungled it.
Yeah, the one that they actually caught.
What did we learn of that? And
nothing.
How does it contribute?
How did it even change? How did it change? How did they modify their investigative processes. He didn't do jack shit. Most of the stories in the US and the UK, they always end up helping the next generation of police on how to catch the next person, how to decide if this person is a cannibal
it's intelligence.
or not. It's intelligence.
It builds because there's a pattern always.
You can see the growth. You can see the systematic growth. Because today, if a person presented as a cannibal, it's not just enough for a person to be caught with blood on his body.
This topic is deep.
Exactly.
I mean, people go to dig graves.
Yeah.
Even it's in the news every week.
People
dig grave of fresh corpse 2-3 days old, and they sever body. Not all the time they are caught. What are they doing with it?
Exactly.
Like I said, we can't say 100% they are eating it, but we know that
something is going on.
Well over 50% of the time, from even what Nollywood shows us, which is reality of the society. Excuse me. So
no, I think 100% of the time they're eating it. I don't think it's even 50%, because
I said well over 50.
No,
and I'm thinking 70, 80.
I think it's 100%, because the thing about it is that for you, if you're going to use a person's head, what are you going to use it for? You're going to eat the brain now. You're going to mash it up. You're going to burn it.
But,
see, I don't know the process, so. See, I don't know the process, so. Just in case you think. I'm just thinking of how they would eat it. They would burn it, make it into ash, and cook with it.
Maybe.
Because that's.
Who knows? I mean,
I'm thinking
Nollywood movie where the person now goes home with the head, is in the cupboard, and he brings money to him.
No, but they still have to eat it now. For them to control the head.
Omo, you know so much about this.
No, I don't want. No. No, wait. I'm an avid reader. That's what I am.
I'm an avid reader. I don't read.
I am an avid reader, and I listen and I observe.
I just set you up.
Set up of life. Like what? So I'm just saying that for you to be able to control, let's assume that these people have this jazz is so real and so fantastic.
Yeah.
For your brain to make sense of it, if you are not if you're not an original cannibal, you would have to eat a part of it, and it has to be in a digestible form. You cannot use to have your bath, because how are you going to use to have it? It doesn't quite work. It's when you inside your system that you talk that it affects the other person.
Let me just put from my perspective, just one more point. If we all probably grew up reading or watching one of the movies of Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
As far as I know and I remember, Hannibal was not a cannibal.
Really?
I actually read the story of the person. The whole story, the person's life was based on that story. The story was based on the person's life. And the guy's name is Alfredo Bali Trevino. And he only just died in the year 2004. In his case, he's a surgeon. Maybe he was mentally ill. But what I read of his story was there was this Rangel guy who the society suspect was his gay partner. But they went to the same high school. They're friends. Their families know each other. But it's not proven. But that's the strongest case around what led to what happened.
Eating.
Actually, Bali killed Rangel,
his partner.
They are Mexicans, because Rangel was going to get married to a woman because they were gay partners. They were both in the closet.
So it was a crime of passion.
It was a crime of passion. And the other theory was that Rangel was owing him money.
But did he eat him?
That's what I'm saying. The real true story, because I read about him, what was in the police records, he did not eat him. So what he did was he killed him. And how did he kill him? He used the sedator, that one they put on the Anki as a surgeon. Chloroform, God bless you. He covered
so many things. Just ask me.
I know chloroform, yeah. He used that, covered his nose. The guy became unconscious. Then he now injected him with another sedator, and so that knocked him out totally. And from there, he slit the throat. He chopped him up so bad, like when you go to the butchery and put him in a box. And that was in the first case. He now took that box and sent it to a farmland. Where his relatives, they own a farm or something. And one of the farm hands, typically, they will label the box medical waste. So he sent it there. Medical waste, they don't open it. They imagine syringes and parts from
blood, from
whatever and all those. And the guy just buries it. Now, he buried it in the farmland. I think maybe a shepherd or someone random moved into that field
And then found it.
saw something that looked like a shallow grave with stone that were not properly, and then he called the police. So that was what happened, and they realized, okay, so Ranger is dead, or Alfredo Bali killed him, and the police did all this. And he actually tried to bribe them, the police with his dad's pharmacy, which he had inherited. He tried to bribe them, that he would give them a house and 2 cars and all of that, but they didn't accept. And all of this happened in Mexico. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, and eventually did 20 or so, and he came out eventually, and he came back into the society, reformed. He was actually now applying his medical skills. Okay, so his story came out when Thomas Harris, that's the writer of the Hannibal series. Thomas Harris is a journalist that was sent to the prison from the United States to go to Mexico for another story. So there's a criminal that was in that same prison, where Alfredo was, and he went to do that investigation. And then the guy that he went to do the story on was going to jailbreak. So he tried to bribe one of the wardens by giving him money and all that stuff, and that one said yes. But that one's conscience was like, okay, I'm going to double cross this guy. I will take his money. Then when he's trying to climb out, which I would have given him the signal, I'm going to shoot him and say he's trying to escape. So that was exactly what happened. The warden took the guy's money and was setting him up as the guy, which you can say the warden is like a dirty cop. As the guy was trying to get out of the fence, then the warden himself, who was supposed to help him out, shot him from the back. And then while the guy was in the throes of death, the fellow inmate, who is a medical doctor and a surgeon, came and did surgery and saved the life of that guy. And so the journalist was interested in this other inmate, that, okay, how did he find his way in here? Why is he here? This kind of guy should be in the society. Helping. And that's how the story came out. And then all the old Hannibal Lecter is just a character that was created, and that's how the whole story came together. And he came back into the society and was purely treating poor people.
I had no idea. I thought Hannibal Lecter was based on a true story.
Nah, it's based on a true story, but definitely there's fiction added to it.
Because Hannibal Lecter used to have it like with red wine.
Nah, this guy he did not eat any. Yeah,
because Hannibal Lecter is more like Albert Fish.
That's the movie and the novel.
Yeah. It's actually more along the line of Albert Fish than Alfredo.
Yeah, Alfredo, that's a true life story that inspired the whole. Because of documented history, we can separate the rise from chaff, the truth from falsehood, or reality from fiction. But in our society, and that's the point I was trying to make, we really can't, because
you can't be sure what's really happened. There's no actual true investigative.
Like in everywhere in the world, cannibalism is a phenomenon over time. And it was widespread along with vampirism in Eastern Europe. It's documented in history. In Africa, it's well documented. Across Southern West Africa, it's well documented. So the rest of the world, but from modern civilization, the rest of the world is moved on, it's well documented, the mental situations, because they learn from this and they
try to avoid it.
Exactly. Where they can't even avoid it, they're able to stop it from happening to the next person. But here, it's happening on the ground. That's the point.
It's happening on the ground and people are getting away with it.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say, because the system is the way it is. Even we as a people, like I said, we can't say this or that politician, but we do know the kind of rituals our people do, and some of the stories. I think we've said it all, and it needs to start with the system. The system must change, and they must start documenting. And because all of these are crime. When you kill someone, it's a crime. Yeah. And then people start getting more discouraged, and then all of these guys that dig graves, the babalawos and the afars, and that always request for all these body parts and all those things. They gradually run out of business.
Yes.
They gradually run out of business, and we can have a saner society and
a safer zone.
Cannibalism is possibly less due to people having mental instability, like what the documented situations in the Western world has shown. It's more from a ritualistic point of view. That would be where I would land this.
Okay, so Nigerians are not really cannibalistic unless they're being ritualistic.
It goes hand in hand.
So Nigerians,
it's not for hunger. It's not for
no.
Like
I'm going to make it. I'm going to
see that fat.
I see that fat. Exactly. Oh my God! I gotta shop it.
It's really not from that. That's the mental. That's the cycle one.
That's the Albert Fish for you, though.
That's the cycle one. But for us, it's more about I need to make this money and go and make human head.
Yeah.
And we'll cook it and do something and we'll put something and then you eat it. Or I want power. Or I'm in power. I don't want to lose that position. And you have to do this and that.
That's getting light-skinned girl. Blah, blah, blah.
So that's it.
Okay, so...
That's been real.
So it seems that this... I apologize, first things first, that this podcast is so long. But there's no way we could do this without actually touching on everything. But it's a very interesting topic. And I do hope that you are able to Google all these people, because I didn't have time to get this story to you. But I hope you have the time to Google all these stories and check it out. You can reach me via email at projectrandompodcast@gmail.com. Also on Twitter at DA_projectrandom. That's all. Please go out, not even just please, but you should go out and buy Exquisite Deluxe, which is the album that Rez performed that spoken word poetry from, called Lofa.
Yeah, it would be nice. Check out my spoken word album, the other track. There are those that are very deep, like Lofa that I did, which is
and that's just the first verse
in this conversation. And there are those that are very light-hearted, some with humor. So it's different angles, different perspectives to poetry, and it's supported with jazz and some music as well. I'm sure you will enjoy it. So that you can find on my website, www.iamrestthepoet.com. And the beautiful thing is also that the album is on virtually, if not all, I'm saying, because I don't know any that it's not on. It's on virtually all online platform, retail stores, from iTunes to Shazam to Deezer to Amazon to Tidal to Spotify. So I've got my album everywhere. Check for it. If you want to stream it. If you want to buy. I'll prefer you buy. And you can buy from my website as well. And check the website out. I post poetry from time to time. I've got lovely images and content, and then even some spoken word that are not released, but you can listen to off the album or off my website. So engage me at Rest the Poet on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook as well. Rest the Poet, REZTHAPOET. It's been real and fun.
He just stole my line.
Yeah, I have to steal that. I love the line. It's been real.
I'm still gonna say it.
It's been real.
It's been real, guys. It's been real. Bye.
Bye.